In statistics, the standard deviation (SD), also represented by the Greek letter sigma, for the population standard deviation or S for the sample standard deviation, is a measure that is used to quantify the amount of variation or dispersion of a set of data values. A standard deviation close to zero indicates that the data points tend to be very close to the mean, also called the expected value of the set, while a high standard deviation indicates that the data points are spread out over a wider range of values. The standard deviation of a random variable, statistical population, dataset, or probability distribution is the square root of its variance. It is algebraically simpler, though in practice less robust, than the average absolute deviation. A useful property of the standard deviation is that, unlike the variance, it is expressed in the same units as the data. There are also other measures of deviation from the norm, including mean absolute deviation, which provide different mathematical properties from standard deviation. In addition to expressing the variability of a population, the standard deviation is commonly used to measure confidence in statistical conclusions. For example, the margin of error in polling data is determined by calculating the expected standard deviation in the results if the same poll were to be conducted multiple times. The reported margin of error is typically about twice the standard deviation, the half-width of a 95% confidence interval. In science, researchers commonly report a standard deviation of experimental data, and only effects that fall much farther than 2 standard deviations away from what would have been expected are considered statistically significant. Normal random error or variation in the measurements is in this way distinguished from causal variation.